Hey everybody, welcome back to Performance on Wheels. This is Jake and this is his 2020 Chevrolet Corvette C8. You got to go subscribe to him on YouTube, Midwest Ride. Today we have a bit of a conversation to talk about. Is this thing reliable?
I would say, yeah, it's pretty reliable in some aspects. You know, obviously, no cars are perfect, right? No person is perfect, no car is perfect. But I did go through a little bit of an issue with mine.
You had a little snafu, didn't you?
Yeah.
Probably one of the few in the country.
Yeah, I did. Thankfully, it's back. You know, everything got fixed, but there was a little bit of an issue there.
And what was that?
So it turns out I had met up with a couple of YouTubers with the intent of doing a couple videos, and they had taken the car out for a drive. And when I was sitting waiting back at the meet spot, I got a call from them, and it was that the car had just shut off. So I went over there, and the car wouldn't even turn back on. So of course, my first reaction was, what did they do to my car? Right?
Yeah, of course.
I was thinking, you know, what could have gone wrong? What did they do? And turns out we got it on a flatbed, got it back to a Chevy dealer, and they were outstanding. The service manager over there, Gene, he called me every single day with an update, even if he didn't have an update, just to kind of talk and go over the vehicle, where we were at. And long story short, got the vehicle back, engine replaced, and that's about it. Yeah.
So the engine blew on your 2020 C8 Corvette with 2,000 miles on it.
It did. Yep. And you know, the whole process was great, right? The whole process with GM, with the Chevy dealership, they went completely out of their way with how they fixed the vehicle. I will say that. I will say that you shouldn't be worried if you're waiting on one of these cars. You know, I would say that it was a fluke. It was the cause of failure was number one and number two connecting rod bearing had spun.
Ooh.
They had said, yeah, they were thinking that it might have been an assembly issue, or like you had mentioned, the debris possibly in the engine as well. But at that point, you know, it's hard to say.
So was there any error messages on the screen, or was there a pile of oil under the car? Did you have any indication of anything going on?
No, so there was no oil, there were no leaks visibly. There was still a little bit of oil in the dipstick.
Okay.
The only problem was that to check the oil on these, you have to have the car running. So we weren't completely aware of that. But on the dash, it was saying low oil pressure. Reading at 0, and then also when you went to take the vehicle out of park, you couldn't get it out of park. It wouldn't go into neutral, wouldn't go into drive, couldn't get it out of park at all. So that's what was going on.
So before we pick up the rest of that story, let's back up for just a second. Did you special order a C8, or did you just find one, or how did that work for you?
Yep, so what I had done is I had an order with my local dealership.
Okay.
That sat for about 8 or 9 months. It actually never gotten picked up. And what I had done is right before this whole coronavirus stuff that was going on, I had basically thought that I was either going to get a 2020, and if it was a 2021, I wouldn't be getting it until February. So what I did is I'd searched online all over, and I actually found this one out of Seattle. The dealership was still waiting on it to show up. They wanted $5,000 over for it, and that's how the story goes.
Awesome, awesome. So going back to the engine replacement in your brand new supercar, essentially, how long did that process take? You dropped it off at the dealership. When did you get the car back?
Yep. So I dropped it off at the dealership on a Sunday. They weren't open.
Okay.
So Monday came around. Monday, their focus was trying to get it out of park. They needed a specialty tool to actually do that. It was somewhere in the back of the vehicle that they needed to use it for. So once that had happened, basically the next step was the activity log. So they pulled the activity log, sent it out to GM, and as soon as they had gotten that, it was actually a very quick process, like I said. Once they had read the activity log, the next day the engine was on the way. They said it was going to show up on a Friday, and it actually showed up the very next day.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
Showed up the very next day. And the whole process in the entirety, it would have taken about a week and a half, 2 weeks max. But we were waiting on some axle bolts, some torque to yield bolts.
Okay.
Those were actually a little difficult to get, and what they actually ended up doing was GM sent out the axles themselves, and then we used those bolts.
You probably can't go down to Ace Hardware and pick up some bolts, I would assume.
No,
not happening?
No.
Okay.
So I used to work at a GM dealership, and I was around a Corvette that had 2 transmissions replaced. So it went through one, and then it went through a second one within about a month and a half time frame. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that is a little surprising. I mean, like I said, cars aren't perfect.
No,
Right?
no,
You know,
not at all.
People aren't perfect, cars aren't perfect, and they can be unpredictable.
Yeah.
Whether they have 100,000 miles on them or whether they have 1,800 miles on them.
So as being an owner of a C8, do you still suggest people that have orders in that still plan on buying one of these to pursue it, or should they wait till the next revision or until some of these things get fixed?
I 100% think that they should stick with their order. The vehicle's worth the wait. It's well worth the wait.
It is.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Holy
nothing
crap.
like it, really.
Yeah, you guys got to check out our review that we just did on the C8. The driving capabilities, getting behind the wheel of one of these and experiencing the way that it can perform is truly amazing. This car is a blast to drive, and I was very impressed. I was more impressed than I thought I would be. Every C7, C6, C5, C4 I've driven, they've just been rock solid, pretty much muscle cars, I could say. They're just mad. Everything is clunky. Everything doesn't work very well. It's just straight to the point. It's made to be fast, and this is a turning point for GM in a lot of ways. Everything is new. Everything is revised. They're going after an entirely new market, and I think they did so in a very good way.
Yeah, they nailed it. Going back to the transmission for just a second. So the transmission is made by Tremec,
Yes.
who's obviously a massive transmission
Yes.
producer for numerous manufacturers. This is their first dual clutch transmission.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. So here's what happened with that situation that went on at my work. So a Corvette came in, a C8, first one that we've seen in service other than just the 15 that we received to go out to customers. It came in for a transmission leak, or a leak in the rear end was stated on the repair order. It came in, it went to the transmission guy immediately. He lifted it up, looked at it for about 20 minutes, didn't really know what was going on, sent it to the Master Tech. Master Tech lifted it up, looked at it, didn't really know what was going on. Back to the transmission guy, back to the Master Tech, back to the transmission guy, back to the Master Tech. This went on for probably 2 to 3 hours. At that point, it was up in the air, and all of a sudden, everybody was just gone. No idea where they went. Turns out that they had a meeting with other dealerships. So multiple other dealerships came to my dealership to all view what was going on with this Corvette. So we had all the Master Techs there trying to figure out what was going on with this C8. We ended up not being able to figure out exactly what it was, but it was for sure coming with the transmission. So we sent the car to GM. GM sent the car back. They told us to replace the transmission because the transmission shot. Car came back a week later after coming back from the customer. Codes flashing everywhere, would not shift out of first gear. It needed another transmission, it finds out. So from the same customer, went through 2 transmissions within about a month and a half time period. I would be pretty upset. I'm not going to lie.
Looking around, and it's very odd that during their R&D, GM could only get one engine to fail.
I find that very strange.
I don't recall reading as of yet any reports of transmission failure. And they've been researching this thing for quite some time.
Yeah, quite some time for sure.
I do believe I recall seeing at least one other YouTuber mentioning an engine failure.
Yeah,
Am I right in that?
I saw one other one, and I've seen, I think, 4 or 5 transmission failures.
Okay, so it's still a very small percentage in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Remember, this car has huge visibility, and
Well,
there's only 2,700 of them out there right now.
Which is crazy. Based on what I read, it sounds like this is going to be the lowest production number Corvette ever since 1950, which is unbelievable to think about.
All because of Corona.
All because of Corona.
So rumor has it that the C8 that's behind us is for sale.
It is, yep.
Why would you want to be selling it already?
Just supply and demand. If somebody comes by and wants to buy the vehicle for more than what I bought it for, that's supply and demand, and I think everyone has their price, right? Every
For
car
sure.
has its price, and that's kind of where I'm at with it.
What would you replace it with?
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. There's nothing comparable to it. I mean, truly, when the whole thing was going on with the engine, I looked at comparable vehicles, right? And to get anything performance-wise that's comparable to this vehicle, you're talking about 130, 140,000
Absolutely.
minimum.
Yep.
And that's the thing is there's nothing like it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the closest thing I could think of price-wise would probably be a McLaren 570. That's my guess. Is there something else that you had in mind?
Yeah, that was in my mind too. A
Was
McLaren
it?
570S, like a 13 or a 15 Ferrari. You're talking about that same price. Maybe an Audi R8, but even then, it's
Well,
you know,
even then, you're
100
worrying about you don't have the warranty.
Mhm.
You're worrying about really expensive things when they break, and you frankly can't beat on it as hard as you can beat on the Corvette.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about it.
There really is nothing like it. There really is.
Awesome.
So we just got talking about, got done talking about some big reliability stuff, engines, transmissions, pretty much the biggest components of vehicles. You heard about anything minor going on with this car? Any suspension things or stuff like that?
You know, I haven't. Other than I did see in a Corvette group, I'm in a group on Facebook. I did see someone talking about the axles. They had to get the CV axles replaced themselves. But other than that, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. You know, cars are unpredictable. Right?
Oh yeah, cars are definitely unpredictable. There's
right.
no doubt about it. I mean, the only one that's not is pretty much every Toyota ever made.
There is that. Right. But it's not going to put a smile on your face like
No,
that.
no, it
Right,
definitely
right,
won't. There's
right.
nothing like comparing a Camry to a Corvette.
Right. So, I mean, the heritage and the legacy that goes behind the Corvette, there's no denying this is going to be a remarkable car.
There's no doubt about it. Every Corvette ever built has pretty much been the benchmark for that price, for that performance.
Right. And they're world renowned now. And the fact that we will start seeing them overseas, the fact that they're going right-hand drive,
Mm-hmm.
I think the legacy of the Corvette's going to become like a worldwide phenomena.
Yeah,
Not just an
right.
American old guy with some white New Balances.
Which
and
it has
jean
been for
shorts.
quite some time,
Right.
unfortunately.
I think it's entering a whole new era of ownership. A younger guy. I think there's going to be a huge draw for this.
Which is
car.
exactly what Corvette was aiming for when they came out with
They
it.
nailed it.
They were trying to keep the group that they already had, and then bring in the younger group as well. And I think they did a great job of that. They brought the technology in, they brought the mid-engine in, and that's exactly what Corvette needed to move forward.
To see more on this car, make sure to hop over to Midwest Rides YouTube channel. You can see a Zeus bronze one that's in the family as well as keeping up with the story on the black one that sits behind us.
If you guys would like to see us and Midwest Ride comes out with even more videos on this car, be sure to comment down below so we know what to come out with in the future. We think we're going to have a pretty good partnership going and friendship after today's videos. I really hope you guys enjoyed. It was nice talking to you, owning a Corvette C8 and being around the C8s now for some time, just to see if this is actually a reliable vehicle for people.